Here's Nick. Welcome to my Sony Action Cam live stream. This stream, as a little disclaimer, is completely unscripted and I only planned a little bit what I will show during the stream. But aside from that, it will go a little bit like I just feel at each moment. So, you all in the chat can ask questions regarding the Action Cam models, the various Action Cam models. I have a few behind me on my workbench. You can ask me about accessories or software or whatever you want. I'm going to start my stream talking about the must-have accessories in my opinion. And yeah, it's all stuff which is not very expensive, but I honestly think you should have for your Action Cam. So the first accessory is there I have it, the Joby GorillaPod. It is a so-called flexible leg tripod, which works as the name would suggest. It's a tripod. You can stand it down on any surface you might imagine, because it has rubberized feet and therefore stands very good on each surface. But you can also do something very interesting with it. You can wrap it around things. So imagine this is a rail, a guardrail of, let's say, a staircase, and you want to, let's say, point the camera downwards, or it's a guardrail on a pier or anywhere else you can imagine. You simply place the legs around, and then you tighten them firmly. And since all the elements are surrounded with rubber, they will stick very good. Yeah, my assistant just told me there's a question in the chat. So, what's the question? Which Action Cam do you mean? Do you mean the latest Action Cam, the FDR X3000, or Sony Action Cams in general? Because for all the Sony Action Cam models, there is something I don't like about these cameras. Each camera has its downsides because you can't simply make the perfect Action Cam, in my opinion. You can make the perfect cam for scuba diving, but then it won't be as good for mountain biking. Or if you would want to pack everything into one camera, it would become very expensive. Let's say $1,000 US or something like that. But the Action Cams which are on the market currently, the FDR X3000, the AS300, are in my opinion the best Action Cams on the market currently. Not only because of the balanced optical steady shot, which surpasses every other stabilization method, but also because of the high bitrate codecs. If you compare the Sony Action Cams with other Action Cam models currently on the market, most of them, except for the Yi 4K Plus, lack the bitrate, which means if you have lots of small details in the frame, the video will become blocky in sense of having digital artifacts, which in my opinion is a major downside. Yeah, it has to do with video compression in general, but if the bitrate is very low for the camera to start with, then you will never have the best video out of it. I hope that did answer your question. If not, you can ask a follow-up question in the chat, and my assistant will tell me about it. Back to the Joby GorillaPod. The camera, to mount the camera to the Joby GorillaPod, you simply screw the 1/4-inch thread onto the 1/4-inch thread on the base plate of this mount, which is rather small. Let's see. Slide it out. It is very small. It has I call them coin screw at the bottom. Coin screws are, I don't know what the real name for them is, but those are screws where you can use a coin to tighten them. You don't need a screwdriver, which makes it perfect for accessories or things you take out with you in the wild, because while you cannot always have a screwdriver with you, you most certainly find a coin, and even if it's at the lowest point inside your backpack. So you take the base plate and screw the camera on. Normally then you tighten the screw, but I found that it's not really necessary to tighten the screw with a coin, since the camera can loosen itself up by a quarter turn, and then it's already loosened up again. So I found the easiest way is to simply hold the tripod, leave the base plate inside the tripod head, and then simply screw the camera on there. Let's see. It's a demonstration effect, doesn't work. Now it works. And you simply screw it on until you can't turn it any further, and then the camera is very well on this tripod head. As you can see, I can shake it around. It will not fall off, and normally the tripod won't shake because you set it down and it will stay where it is, and the camera will simply sit on it. But since the Sony action cams not only have a screw, a quarter-inch thread inside the housing, but also on the camera itself for all the models following the AES-200, the X1000, the AES-50, the AES-300 and the FDR-X3000 all have a thread directly inside their the camera itself, while all the other cameras needed a little adapter rail for it, which I also have here. Maybe I'm going to show it to you later if there's any demand. But yeah, going back to the camera, I can simply pop it out of its housing. And as you can see, there's a little thread right here at the bottom, which makes it really easy to mount the Sony action cams anywhere where you can mount your ordinary camcorder or DSLR, which is a plus, an additionally plus, in my opinion, because with other action cams you sometimes run into the issue that they have a proprietary mount and you need special accessories to mount the action cam anywhere, which is, in my opinion, a nuisance because if you don't have it with you, then you can't mount your action cam, which would make it impractical for me. Yeah, but I hope I could explain to you why the Joby Gorilla Pod is a must-have accessory, and you can even buy aftermarket Gorilla Pods like this one, but I didn't make a very good experience, or I didn't have very good experience with cheap aftermarket rip-offs. The joints were not tight enough, so it would always loosen itself up if I wrapped it around a guardrail or a lamppost or anything else you can imagine. And so I eventually, after buying 3 rip-off Joby Gorilla Pods, I bought the original one, and this one is just perfect. And then it also has the option to lock the head, so yeah, you can't by mistake loosen up the base plate. The next must-have accessory, in my opinion, is a floating wristband. Floating wristband is a must-have accessory for every sport where the camera could fall into the water, and if it's just, let's say you're out in a kayak or on a boat driving around in the lake, and the camera could fall into water, then you definitely need one of these. And if you don't have it, your camera falls into the lake and then it will drown. Because it will sink to the ground, or to the how do you say it? Lake bottom? Lake floor? I can't remember the word, but yeah, you will lose your camera and you won't find it unless you get 3 or 5 scuba divers helping you search for it. So to mount any camera to this, I'm going to just take an older camera, here the AS100. You put this little leash through the holes in the back of the housing. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see it a little better. Can you please point the camera a little bit further down? Awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. So here is the wristband with this little leash, which I'm now going to thread through the camera housing, through the back of the camera housing, and you even can detach the tip of this wristband. It holds on very well, so it won't come off by mistake, but you can detach it, which makes the whole mounting process easier. Then you can see the little holes in the back of the housing, and you simply try to get this loop close together, and then you thread it through the holes in the back here. And when you're at this point, you simply stick the lock back through the loop, and it now holds on tight to the camera. Then you can reattach the floating wristband, and you're set to go. And you don't actually have to wear the wristband. You just, have the wristband on the camera. The camera can still be mounted on a tripod or on your head mount, for example, or chest mount, or whatever you're using, even if it's a adhesive plate. And if the camera comes loose and falls into the water, it will float. This little wristband will help the camera to stay afloat, and you won't lose your camera. And since these things, I think it's by the brand Luxpel, they cost around $7, and you can save your $200 or $300 camera, which is, in my opinion, a no-brainer. So I'm going to just put this back. I'm going to zoom a little bit out here again. Yeah, please point the camera upwards a little bit. Thank you. Perfect. So the next must-have accessory, I think I forgot it on my desk over there, zip ties. I think next to the phone there is a bag of zip ties. Yeah, thanks. Throw them. Oh, okay. Zip ties, must-have accessory. They are cheap. You get many for not much money, and you can create mounts. And what do I mean by that? It's rather simple. You can take your camera. I'm going to take the AZ1 here, and let's imagine the same mounting scenario as before. You have a rail, and you want to mount your camera. I'm not going to use my arm for this one. Let's see, what else can I use for this? I have an idea. One moment. If you want to mount your camera on a rail, let's say this is the rail, and you can use the zip ties to simply wrap around the camera and around the rail. If the zip tie is too short, you can extend zip ties by simply putting one zip tie through the loop of the other zip tie until you hear the clicking sound. Hope you can hear it. And then you have a twice as long zip tie. So let's say I have my action cam here and I want to mount it for, let's say, a time lapse or something else. Then I go ahead, take the camera, take the rail. It's a little bit hard if the rail is not mounted statically. But you can then use the zip tie. It's a little bit hard if you have to hold the whole rail in place. And then simply tighten it, and the camera stays firmly. Oh yeah, press the record button, I think. But you can use another zip tie to make it even more firm, or you can even, that's a funny thing, you can wrap another zip tie around the length of the camera and then mount your other zip ties on this zip tie to pull the camera downwards. There are endless possibilities what you can do with zip ties, so if you're out in the wild or doing travel videos or whatever, always bring zip ties with you. I would opt in for even longer zip ties than these which I just showed you, but these were just zip ties I had lying around. So yeah, I didn't have any longer zip ties on hand. So that's it about the must-have accessories. There are many more accessories which you can have, but I think these 3 accessories I just showed you are must-have accessories. I'm going to continue with optional accessories which I either found for cheap online or which I built myself. And the first one is the same as the second one I'm going to show you, but it's a DIY solution. And DIY solutions are generally awesome because they are cheap and they serve the same purpose as much more expensive things. Let's see. I have my DIY time-lapse turning mount. I just have to search for my remote. Oh, there it is. To zoom a little bit in. so I can show it to you. There it is. I even fitted it, or I put some Sony Action Cam stickers on it. It nearly looks like a bought accessory, but it is actually DIY. I simply put an adhesive mounting plate, a flat adhesive mounting plate on top of an egg timer, and then I can put a camera on top of it and wind it up, and then it will wind down for the duration which it displays on the egg timer, and it will turn 360 degrees, or if I just wind it up to the middle point, then it will wind down 30 minutes, and then I can get a nice effect during my time lapse. So the camera can, for example, point from one building, start the time lapse at one building, then turn around, let's say 180 degrees, point to the second building, and from there the time lapse can simply run for as long as you want. It has some downsides, of course. You can't tell it how fast it has to spin. You can't let it turn more than 360 degrees, and the turns are limited, I would say. I'm going to wind it down. It rings. It's an egg timer. But it serves the purpose, and you can do lots of things which you can't do if your camera is mounted statically. The next accessory is the same thing, but a little bit more expensive and a little bit more advanced. This one is a little, you can say it is a slider on rolls. It's from the brand Endor. I think it's how you pronounce it. I'm not quite sure. Endor, it says right here. And they rip off, I think, Edelkrone mounts. They have this slider plus, and they have a rollable slider like this. And the thing with this one is you can put it down on a tabletop, or even on the road, or wherever you want, and then you can adjust the two wheels on the side to adjust the radius the whole thing is going to travel. Then you just press one button, this back wheel will turn, it will hum a little bit, I hope you can hear it, and it will turn and it will drive the whole thing in one direction, or if you put a battery in the other way around, it will go into the other direction. If you put the wheels really close, I just popped the rubber gasket thingy off there. They just use O-rings for wheels, obviously, orange colored O-rings. If you put the wheels very close to the base, then you can just let it run in circles with the camera not moving from one place to another. So it will look like the camera is actually turning in place, and you get the same effect like with the DIY mount before. And since you can do slides and other things with this mount, I think it is just a better solution in terms of practicality, but it also costs a lot more money. While the egg timer did cost, I think, €9, which is around $10, this thing did cost €80 or something like that, and so it is much more expensive, obviously, but you get a much better result. The next accessory I'm going to talk about is this little grip. I heard some people have problems with holding the Sony Action Cams in their hand and shooting video without getting the lens dirty with their fingers if they touch the lens while holding the camera, or they can't access the buttons properly, or they press any button switching modes which they don't want. And so I think for some people which run into these issues, this grip is a must-have accessory. This grip is made so that you can mount a camera on top. I'm going to do that right now. Let's see. I'm going to choose the FDR X1000 for that. You simply put the camera on top. It has a thread on the bottom as well, as I said before. And then you simply turn the ring below that to tighten the camera. And you can even adjust the camera beforehand to point into the direction you want. If you want to film something else, of course, you're going to let it point away from you. If you want to film yourself, you point it towards you, and then you have another screw on the side here, which you can loosen to tilt the camera. Then, in the front here, you have a little mounting option for the remote. Currently, I still have the bracket in for the LVR1 and LVR2 remote, but if you slide this little locking mechanism on top here, you can pop this cradle out, and then you can mount the LVR3 remote, which I have here. You simply put the LVR3 remote in there, I think the bottom side first, then you slide the locking mechanism to the side, and now the remote is fixed in place, and I could use this setup for vlogging. Let's see, I could tilt the camera a little bit down, hold it in front of me and talk to the camera while also having the display below where I see what I'm pointing at, which is a very good and small and handheld solution. So if you, let's say, put the X1000 or the FDR X3000 onto this mount, you will have the most compact 4K vlogging solution. And since the FDR X3000 also offers balanced optical steady shot, the optical in-camera stabilization, which no other action cam currently has, you will get super smooth footage. And I'm actually going to use this setup during a trip in 2 weeks. So I will report back with some footage then. But for now, you just have to trust me that this solution is awesome for vlogging. Going to put this aside here really quick, and then I'm going to did we have any other questions so far? Not. Okay. Yeah, then I'm going to continue with, let's see, the finger grip, which is in my opinion not as good as the solution I just showed you with the grip, where you can point the camera away from you or towards you and even have a tripod built into there. Let's see, I forgot to show you this. You can extend all the 3 legs and then you can put it down on the ground. Yeah, it is a very well thought through mount, and you can even put a leash or let's see, yeah, a leash or a lanyard through this little hole in the back here. Let's see if I can get it to work on camera. The leash is not firm enough, or can I push it through? No, it doesn't work, but normally you then get a little screwdriver and pull it through completely. But you can also, yeah, as I said, save it additionally with a little wristband here, so you don't lose your camera if you put it out of your hand. Now we come to the finger grip, which is made to solve the same problem as the mount I did show you before. But in my opinion, it doesn't do the job as well. So I'm going to put the FDR X3000 out of its case and then put it into this finger grip. The finger grip has a locking mechanism which you simply pull down there in the back. Then you slide the camera in and then you press up on the back. And now the camera is mounted tightly into this mount. And I can also get the remote, which I still have in this mount. Can pop it out and then mount it into the bracket, which is back here. You simply press it in, it snaps into place. It's simply made of elastic plastic, so you can then put the remote into the back of the whole finger grip. The finger grip, yeah, you hold it, you put your index finger through this ring, and you put the middle finger below there, and then you can hold the camera in front of you and film things while you are able to tilt the LVR3 screen to your desired angle so you can see the screen. So if you film from very low, you can point it upwards, and if you film at eye level, you can point it nearly 90 degrees backwards. Yeah, you can hold the camera, and it is a nice mount, but you don't have the additional option to mount the whole setup, like I have it here in my hand, onto a tripod, which is a major design flaw in my opinion. Because if you would have this possibility, like you have the camera in your finger grip and you also, let's see, have the lens protector on the camera, like so, if you then just could use this whole thing and put it on a tripod, you would have a full-fledged camera with a screen, and it would be so much better, in my opinion, simply to be able to mount the camera with this finger grip onto a tripod. But you can't do that, so you have to go with other solutions. You can build camera and screen mounts pretty easily, since you can... I'm going to show you this really quick. Just have to get a remote out of this plastic cradle here. You can simply mount the whole screen with this cradle onto a tripod or anything with a 1/4 inch screw. And then you can mount it to the camera also, and you have the screen and the camera on one big self-built mount. So yeah, the mounting mechanism is the same. Put the bottom side of the remote in there, pull the lock to the side, and then it is mounted inside there perfectly. You can screw it on something, screw the camera on the same mount too, and you have a camera and screen combination. Now, what am I going to do next? Yeah, I'm going to show a little DIY hack I made a while ago, which is for the Sony HDR AZ1. The HDR AZ1 is Sony's smallest action cam. I think it should be the equivalent model to the first GoPro Hero Session. Since you have to actually control it with a smartphone to change settings, you can't access the settings right on the camera. It is ultra compact, it is ultra small, and it shoots good video. And yeah, it had a major design flaw when it comes to the case. The case has a bubble lens, meaning that if you dive with this camera, the video won't be sharp. Water does refract, I think that's the right word, refract light different than air does. So yeah, the camera has a fixed focus lens. The action cams don't do any focusing at all. So yeah, if you put the camera with the bubble lens into water, the video will be blurry because the camera can't just focus and the bubble lens doesn't allow the correct focus. So I thought to myself, I actually have a video on the channel about this. I thought to myself, how can we solve this issue, or how can I solve this issue? And I came up with a really simple solution. There is the case which the HDR AS50, the HDR AS300 and the FDRX 3000 use, which has a flat lens. Since all the action cams, the previous action cams, they all came with a bubble lens case out of the box, and you had to buy a dive case additionally. Many people complained, so Sony reacted. Now these cameras all came with a flat lens right off the box. And I noticed something interesting about the button placement on this case, since here the record button is on top. The case also has the record button on top, so I thought maybe you can kind of MacGyver this thing, the camera, into this housing. And I came up with a solution which I 3D printed here. My first prototypes were laser cut out of acrylic glass. This one is 3D printed, and you simply put it inside the case, put the camera on top of there, and then you can close the case up and actually access the record button of the camera. I suggest you watch the longer version video which I have on my channel about this, but I think this hack solved a problem many people had. And if I look on Amazon, the most negative reviews for this camera were about not being able to film sharp video underwater. So, problem solved. The next thing I have seen many people complain about or not knowing about is the thing which is inside this pouch. This is a simple how do you call them, Ziploc bag? No, it's not Ziploc because you don't pull the Ziploc, but you know, these bags which you use normally to put food away or freeze things. Inside here are so-called anti-fog inserts, which are small pouches which are filled with silicea gel, I think that's how you pronounce it in English, and you can put them into each case for each camera, and they absorb humidity which get trapped in the case. You maybe know this effect. It's cold outside and you're inside the warm house, and then you stand in front of your window and your warm breath causes humidity to condensate on the window pane. So the same effect can happen with the action cam cases. As soon as you close up the case, the humidity which is in the air, which is around the camera, because there is always air around the camera and inside the camera as well, that all this humidity is now trapped in the case. And as soon as you have temperature differences, the humidity will condensate, and it will mostly condensate on the lens piece, which will result in a very blurry or unsharp image. So by simply putting an anti-fog insert into the case also, you can get all this humidity trapped inside the anti-fog insert. So normally you dry your anti-fog insert, you store it inside the pouch so it doesn't absorb humidity before you want to use it. Then you take the pouch with you, then you get your case ready. Now I need to take the camera out of the other case again so I can show you this with the case of the AZ1. Then you put it out of the locked or sealed pouch where no additional humidity should get to the anti-fog insert. You put it inside the case. For this case, you put it below the camera. Then you put the camera in there too. Or, yeah, you can put the camera first into the case, then you put the anti-fog insert below the camera. Then you close up the case, and now the camera won't fog up anymore. After use, you then put the anti-fog insert out of the case, you dry it. I just put it on top of my radiator and air dry it in warm air. Then I put it back into the pouch, seal it back, and when I next want to use it, I do it as I just explained. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, let's see, either something from the table behind me from my workbench, or I'm going to talk about my helmet first. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my helmet. This is my full-face mountain bike helmet. And as you can see, I have four mounts on there. One on the left side, one on top, one on the right side, and one beneath the visor. All these mounts are simple Sony adhesive mounts. For the previous action cam models, they were two packed with the camera right from the start. So you got one curved adhesive mount and one flat adhesive mount. And then you also always get the base plate where you can screw the camera on and then simply, see if I can show that, simply slide it into the mount. And then with the camera on top, you can film just really nice. And if you need to detach the camera really quick, you simply slide this little base plate out of there. There's a really interesting thing about these adhesive mounts, which is that most people don't know that the adhesive, the glue which is used on these is the same which you can buy as tape from 3M, which is the brand which produces the original adhesive on these mounting plates. And you can get the tape, and then you can try to fit the plate onto your helmet. And if you see that there's a gap below this adhesive plate, you simply take a few pieces of tape, put them below the mount, and then if there's no gap anymore, you put it on the helmet. You press it down for, let's say, 60 seconds. That's what I usually go with. and then you let it sit for 24 hours. Even Sony uploaded a video on their own channel, on the Action Cam channel, where they did show someone going to location, I think it was a mountain bike trail, slapping the adhesive mount onto the helmet and going to ride down this trail right away. Don't do this, because you will lose your camera. Yeah, let it sit for 24 hours, and then this mount is so firm. As you can see, I can actually wiggle around because it won't come off. So now we are nearly at the end of this live stream. I'm a little bit disappointed that not more people ask questions in the chat, or maybe I'm going to wait a few minutes at the end and see if there are any questions and you were just really polite by holding back with your questions so far. The last thing is the head mount, which all the people I have seen on YouTube use wrong, in my opinion. I'm going to make a standalone video about this issue as well, but yeah, it's my live stream, so why not add a short sentence about this. The camera which you're going to use, or which I'm going to use, you can use your own action cam of course, is the FDR-X3000. I'm going to put the protective lens away. It's not that important for showing you what I want to show you. Is that most people use this mount this way. Wait, I just have to put a bracket in there so it works. They put it on their head, right beside their ear. Then they screw the camera on there. Let's see if I can do this while the headband is already on my head. I don't think that will work. So let's see. Going to ruin my whole hairstyle for this, my non-existing hairstyle. So yeah, they simply go ahead, mount the camera on there, then put this whole thing on their head and have the camera sit, as you can see, right in front of their ear, and they will actually film something, and then they will run into one major problem in my opinion, which is that on the edge of the screen you will see parts of your head, mostly the eyebrows or even parts of your hair, and that for me personally ruins the whole POV experience. You want to show people what you were seeing, but actually they feel like they are spectators sitting right next to your head. To get a real POV view, there are two simple steps to achieve this. The first one is, I'm going to show you this without the camera being mounted there. First step is, don't put the base bracket right in front of your ear, but rather move it forwards towards your temple, which is this thing between your eyebrows and your ear. Put it right up there in front, and that will already give you already move the camera that much forward that your head won't be in frame necessarily. And the next step you're going to do is mount the camera upside down. Now you may ask, what benefit do I get from mounting the camera upside down? It is really simple. You move the camera closer to your eye level, because I'm going to show you this really quick. If the camera is mounted normally, the camera is around, let's say, 4 centimeters higher than your eye level, and by mounting it upside down, so I'm going to turn this bracket upside down, put the camera on there, and you can also, with this Sony head mount, you can tilt the camera, not tilt, but pan the camera left and right, and then fix it. So let's see, I think this will be the right angle. And then you can see, I have to put this onto my lap to get it into there. Then you simply put the camera in there, and then you put the camera back onto your head, and now you have the camera much closer to your eyes. I think it's only around 2 centimeters. I think before it was like 5 actually, not just 4. Now you have the camera much closer to your eye level. It is moved so much forward that you don't have parts of your forehead in the frame, and you get a much better POV experience. I'm also going to upload a video next week where I show you an even better, but even more ridiculous looking POV solution. But I think that's it so far, and I hope I did not destroy my hairstyle. Yeah. So, are there any questions left, since we are nearing the end of the stream? And I really did hope that I get a few more viewers. I think we have one at the moment. That's a new record, actually, since it's my first stream. But yeah, I hope other people will watch the recording of the stream and maybe ask questions in the comments below. Yeah, if there are no questions left for the moment, I will say thank you for watching. It was a pleasure streaming for you, and maybe in the future, if there's any interest, I will do another live stream. Thanks for watching. Nick is out.